Okay, that's off, that's off, that's off, that's turned on. I do believe we're live. YouTube at least tells me that I'm live. Whether I believe it or not, that's another story. But I think everything is set to get started, so let's do just that. Hello, Shadowcat back, and we're almost done. We are almost done. So last time we were here, we we finished up with the Imperium. So we finished off all their vehicles because the Imperium's vehicles, they have a lot of them, but at the same time they don't have a lot of them. They have like only a few tanks and they have a million different variations of the tanks. The aircraft, a little bit different, but by and large, while they don't reuse the same exact airframe for everything, they have so many aircraft that are so very similar to each other that there was no need to make each one of them. So we managed to finish off all of the Imperium stuff. That means that we've got the Imperium race, which is humans. That was easy. We did all their weapons, which was cool because we got to do bolters, and bolters are kind of crazy. We got all their vehicles done. There is war gear that they have, but there's nothing they have that is really important enough to bother with. So if I find the Imperium of Man again, I know you can't see this. It's fine. Like I said, this is not going to be terribly important. Where was it? No. Where do I find their war gear? There it is. Yeah, Imperial Guard equipment and war gear. So there's all their weapons, melee weapons. Okay, so armor for the Imperium. And actually, let me go ahead and pull this up. Hopefully we got everything set up here. Yeah, here we go. So we'll pull that up. So for armor, the Imperium just gets flak armor. Okay, so this flak armor, it's flak armor, okay? We have flak armor in real life. Flak armor and carapace armor, which is basically just plate. Now, mind you, it's plates that are made of the same stuff that Astartes power armor is made out of, but it's still plate armor, and we have that too. And it's already in the game. So it's fine, we don't really need to do that. And as for specialized equipment, the Auspex or Surveyor, a handheld scanning device. Starfinder has it already. A Vox Caster, in other words, it's a radio. We have them. Camo cloaks, it's just a cloak. It's made of the synthetic material cameline. They blend in the surrounding environments, making the wear extremely hard to view. We already have invisibility cloaks. Medipacks are just med packs. Refractor fields, you're not likely to get one anyway. Other than that, standardized equipment, combat knife or bayonet, we have them. Guard issue medical supplies, it's a box of band-aids. Don't get too excited, it's just a box of band-aids. We have them. An entrenching tool, it's just a shovel. We have them. A gas mask, we have them. And the Imperial Infantryman's Uplifting Primer, we actually made one already, so we're good on that. So there's nothing else that we have to do there, which means we are now free to move on to Psykers. This one is going to be difficult, because when it comes to making Psykers, it's going to be very similar to what we had to do for the Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time was easy, for the most part, because the Wheel of Time just takes place in your typical medieval environment. So, no higher technology, there's no electricity, no machinery, not even steam power. I mean, during the Wheel of Time, fireworks were a big thing, because the idea that you had this powder that could go boom, it was incredible. So the setting is already it already works. We just needed a magic system, and that took a rather long time to do. But regardless, we managed to put together, and we're going to do the same thing for Psykers, because we're going to need to adapt some kind of... First off, we need to have a power system. For the Wheel of Time, we used a stamina system. For Pathfinder directly, they use spell slots, or, number of times per day when it comes to spell-like abilities. We're going to have to figure out some kind of scaling system depending on what your psychic power is. Then we're going to have to figure out exactly what these psychic abilities are, and then how we're going to regulate what you can do per day. It's going to have to be its own system. And, since it's going to be available to many people, we need to find some way to scale it so that even if you have, minimal psychic power, you're not going to be like a Psyker. Everyone has a presence in the warp, but not everyone is a Psyker. So we need to make it so that there is some kind of minimum level where you can have power, just not enough power to be a Psyker. And I have some thoughts on that already. We'll get into that in just a second. But before I do that, why don't we take a look at the chat, because there are people here. First in, best dressed, JP is here. Hello, JP. It's good to see you and your shiny new badge. You're rocking the yellow. Blizz is also here. Hello, Blizz. It's good to see you. As for the request for cookies, I do not have cookies. YouTube has cookies. They're in the folder under all of your internet settings, okay? That's where the cookies are. I do not recommend eating them, though. They're not approved for consumption. Actually, I recommend that you probably just go and clear out your cookies, because when's the last time you did that, okay? Go clear out your cookies. Go on, do it now. It doesn't take that long. It's part of your standard PC maintenance. Go clear out your cookies. Alright, so before we can do anything else with the Psykers, we need a spreadsheet. We'll bring that up. I copied this over because right now this is the only thing we have to work with, and it's not a bad little chart. It's probably not going to be useful entirely for what we're doing, but it's not bad. It's not bad at all. And JP says, my disappointment is immense and my day is ruined. I'm not apologizing. Okay. So, I actually did go and find a page on here for Psykers. Now, I haven't looked at the Lexicanum yet. I probably could. Do they have a thing on Psykers? We'll take a look. Faction portals. Quotes, miniatures, galaxy, games, overviews. No, I don't see one specifically for Psykers. What if we look in the Imperium? I mean, if you're really that upset about cookies, I actually do have some cookies. However, I don't drive, so you're gonna have to come here and get them. I mean, if you want to come and get some cookies, I will share all the cookies with you, but you gotta come. Alright, Adeptus Mechanicus, Inquisition. I'm not seeing anything on Psykers in here, so we may just have to go with the actual Warhammer wiki. I'm sure there's something in here, I just don't know where it is. But I have this pulled up, so we can work with this. Alright, Psykers. So we're not going to read all of this because, I mean, look at that table of contents. We're not doing that. So we'll read this intro and then we're going to skip down. So a Psyker is an individual of any intelligent species, which is debatable given that there are Psyker orcs, but regardless, in the Warhammer 40,000 universe who possess some degree of psychic ability or powers. Psychic powers are sometimes referred to as sorcery when they are gained or enhanced through interaction with bargaining with the malevolent entities who exist within the Ephemerian. Psykers are also sometimes called witches in the Imperium of Man. And among the Eldari, particularly when such powers are used in a way that they show no regard for the dangers they may spawn for others, or are used in pursuit of the agendas of the Chaos Gods. Psychic powers are sometimes referred to by the ignorant in the Imperium as magic, also sometimes spelled with a K because magic, I guess. All Psykers draw their powers from the extra-dimensional realm of psychic energy known as the Immaterium or the Warp, that underlies and penetrates all four-dimensional real space, and is the source of all psychic energy in the universe. As such, Psykers, particularly human Psykers, whose minds are far less disciplined and easily tempted than their Eldari counterparts, are often in danger of possession by the demonic entities of the Warp, the onset of insanity, and ultimate corruption by the ruinous powers of chaos. You have to love just how epic everything is in Warhammer 40k. I mean, that is... The weird thing is this. I don't like camp. Okay? And yes, that means I don't like camping either, but that's a different thing. I'm not a big camping person. But I don't like camp. And when I say camp, I mean think back to, like, classic 1960s and 70s television. Think back to, like, the original Star Trek, the original series back in the late 60s, or the original Batman shows with Adam West, where everything is so dramatic and so just turned up to 11. It's silly, it's cringy, it's just... I don't like it. I really don't like it. I'm not a camp person. That being said, however, Warhammer 40k is camp. And I have to explain that for a minute, because the entire thing about camp is that it's turned up to 11, or 12, or 13, or either way, Spinal Tap is out at this point, okay? Their dials don't go that high. With Star Trek, everything was so damn dramatic. You had Kirk standing on the Enterprise, posing in front of the captain's chair. Mr. Sulu, I need you to set a course into that nebula. Chekhov, I need you to have all weapons ready in case the Klingons show up. Spock, I need you to get any sensor reading you can from the nebula so that we know what we're running into. Uhura, I need you to monitor all communications frequency. If they say anything, I need to know where it's coming from. It was very, very dramatic. And it wasn't just William Shatner who did that. Everybody did that to a certain degree. I mean, except for Leonard Nimoy, that's because Spock doesn't do that. But I mean, think about DeForest Kelley playing Bones. I mean, every single time he spoke, it was, damn it, something is going on. It's going badly for us, and it's your fault. It was very, very dramatic. Then you had, like, the opposite of that. You had the Batman TV show, and it was silly, okay? It was silly to an absolutely ridiculous, saccharine degree, okay? It wasn't just, hey, we're bringing comic books to life and we're going to have fun with this. No, everything was utterly ridiculous. And they made fun of the fact that it was ridiculous in the show. I mean... It wasn't just that they didn't take themselves that seriously, they actively mocked themselves. And I couldn't do it. I really couldn't. So now you get to Warhammer 40k, and the thing about 40k is that everything is turned way up. The Emperor of Mankind isn't just like, you know, the leader of mankind. No, he is the immortal, predestined God Emperor of Mankind manifested by the Immaterium. Okay? Fate literally twists itself around him. You have the Imperium of Mankind, which is not just, you know, mankind as you know it. No, it's turned all the way up. We are despots and dictators. We throw away lives like they literally mean nothing, because they do mean nothing. We're the evil ones, okay? We're so evil. The only reason that we haven't kicked puppies yet is because in the 41st millennium, all the puppies are dead already. And you know why? It's because the orcs came and ate all the puppies. Okay? And that's why we're fighting the big bad orcs, who are also British. The British orcs ate the puppies. At least we still have kittens. Oh no, wait, we don't, because the Necrons took them, and they turned them into the old ones, which they worship because they're an Egyptian cat cult. Warhammer is nothing but camp. It is so ridiculously overtuned in everything. And even the wiki reflects that when it describes these things. It could have been written by Games Workshop themselves. I don't know. It's totally camp, and for some reason I don't have a problem with it. It's not really important to anything, just I had to get that off my chest. Alright, Psykers in the galaxy, I don't care. Obviously the Imperium has many Psykers, and while we could go through this, I don't feel the need to. Just as a quick mention, astropaths are Psykers who operate on ships, and they're the ones who allow you to navigate through the warp. Like, you cannot navigate the warp without a Psyker. It can't be done. So, at a minimum, you need 2 Psykers on your ship. 1, to sacrifice for the Geller field, and 2, so you can navigate. The Astra Militarum does have Psykers. They're not as good as the Space Marine Psykers, but they have Psykers who can do stuff, and we'll get into stuff that they can do later. Space Marines have Librarians, and Librarians are basically the same thing as the Astra Militarum Psykers, except better, because that's everything they do. If an Astra Militarum Psyker can throw a fireball, a Space Marine can basically just nuke an area. The Inquisition does have sanctioned Psykers that work with them, and the Grey Knights are a Space Marine chapter specifically made up of only Psykers. Eldar, we literally did. Every single Eldar is a Psyker. They just are by default. The Forces of Chaos have many Psykers because, well, psychic power comes from the Immaterium, and we'll get to that. And so they can literally just grant psychic power to people. The Leagues of Votan, I have no idea what that is. What the hell is that? Though they are a race of abhuman clones, this does not mean that each of the kin of the Leagues of Votan is exactly physically identical, or that the kin suffer from the common defects that can result from lack of genetic diversity. The first ancestors who were responsible many Terra millennia ago for shaping kin society to deal with the environmental rigors of life in the galactic core engineered a series of mutations and unusual phenotypical expressions into their people's genomes, which they named clone skeins. That tells me nothing, though. Who the hell are these people? I've never heard of you before. The Leagues of Votan are the collective confederations of species of squat but powerfully built abhuman clones who refer to themselves as kin. Sometimes pejoratively called squats by the humans of the Imperium, the kin are an advanced starfaring race who possess highly advanced technology and live amid the extreme environments that mark the resource-rich worlds of the galactic core. They share their lives with self-aware robotic constructs called Ironkin, which they treat as full societal equals in every way. How did I not know about these people? I guess it's because they don't really have a faction. I mean, there's no armies for these guys. I guess maybe they just don't fight. Maybe they're so advanced they don't have to fight. Huh, well, I'll read up on this later. That could be fascinating. Alright, well, forgetting those guys, orcs have weird boys. They're Psykers, but for orcs. Necrons have... not really Psykers, but kinda Psykers. So, the Necrons cannot make use of Psykers because, though once living species, they chose to have their living consciousness interred by the Satan into Necron machine constructs composed of necrodermis, for immortality at the cost of their soul. Since the soul is simply an individual psychic imprint on the immaterium, the Necrons are no longer capable of accessing psychic power. Since they're now living machines, being of pure metals, they have no impression of the immaterium. The Satan are described as creatures entirely born of the material realm and thus cannot sense or influence the warp in any way. Thus, they hate and fear the immaterium and all things strongly connected to it or influenced by it, such as Psykers. So, they can't use psychic powers, and they also can't be affected. Necrons are notable for utilizing technology specifically designed for destroying Psykers, though. Most prominently, the Necron Pariahs. Necron Pariahs are an elite bodyguard that terrify any Psykers in their proximity, since no member of this group possesses a warp signature and thus a soul, which makes them essentially an entire race of blanks. And so, yeah, they don't really have Psykers, but they do kind of have Psykers, and they're all blanks. And being a blank does give kind of some abilities. Really only to other or against other Psykers. And then Tau, that's contentious. So, the thing is, and it says right here, the Tau have no known Psykers. In the game 40,000 Fire Warrior, it is revealed the Tau are naturally resistant to the mutating effects of chaos, having almost no psychic presence in the warp at all, though they are not soulless like the Necrons. However, this does not prevent the Tau Ethereal Kovash from being blasted apart by a burst of chaos energy. It is rumored the Ethereals are capable of utilizing warp power, as it is suggested that this is how they are able to cause such loyalty to the greater good in all Tau. However, it has been discovered by the Adeptus Mechanicus researchers that members of the Ethereal caste possess a large diamond-shaped, scent-emitting organ in their forehead which may allow them control over other Tau through the emission of pheromones. So, this is accurate, but also inaccurate. So the lore on this is being rewritten as new editions come out. And this was regarded as being one of the more controversial decisions made in, I want to say 9th edition. I think it was 9th edition, because I think we're on 10 now. And that is, they wanted to introduce the first Tau Psykers. I wonder if I can pull up my phone real quick. Let me do a quick search. Quick search. Tau Psykers. I would have swore that they made a Psyker model. Maybe they only were talking about it. Maybe they haven't actually done it yet. Either way, there was definitely talk of it. And so the Tau do not have any, but they could. So it does say they're naturally resistant to chaos, having almost no psychic presence in the warp, although that is also a bit contentious. Tau are living beings. Tau have a soul. The only reason they don't have as much of a psychic presence in the warp is because Tau are not necessarily as emotional as humans are. Since Tau are a collective community, similar to the Eldar, but not exactly, they don't have a great deal of wild emotional ambitions and outbursts. Tau are born into the world knowing what they're supposed to do, because they have a eugenically stratified caste system. If you are born a fire warrior, you are going to be, or if you're born fire caste, you're going to be a warrior of some kind. If you are born Earth caste, you are going to be an engineer of some kind. If you are born Air caste, you're going to be a pilot of some kind, and so on and so forth. Tau are not raised with the human idea that you need to learn and grow so that you can figure out what you want to do with your life. They're also told to be stoic. They're told to keep their emotions clamped down because you have a job to do. Okay? And you can't let your emotions get in the way of that. So, Tau are kind of like the happy medium between humans and Eldar, where Eldar are raised from the time that they are born to have strict discipline and control, whereas humans, comparatively speaking, are raised to have no control at all, and sometimes are even encouraged to have less than that. Tau are the middle. They have control, but they do still have emotions, and they can indulge in them from time to time. It's just that because they don't indulge in them enough, they don't really imprint in the warp. So that's the brief overview of Psykers and all the other races. And then, of course, Tyranids do not really have psychic powers. They have something similar. So the alien species of the Tyranids is one of the most psychically active races in the galaxy, if not the most, with every single Tyranid telepathically connected to all other members of its species. So, when it comes to demons in the Immaterium, all demons hate blanks, because demons are literally constructed of psychic energy. Ergo, demons hate and avoid the Necron whenever possible, because the Necron really just cannot be harmed by them, can't be influenced by them, and just being around a Necron is terrible for a demon of the warp. That being said, though, there is something that is equally, if not more, terrifying than the Necron to the denizens of the Immaterium, and that would be the Tyranids. So it says here, every single Tyranid telepathically connected to all members of its species through the psychic gestalt called the hive mind. It is suspected that this constant and massive psychic traffic is what causes the shadow in the warp, a phenomenon that makes all warp travel and astro-telepathy almost impossible in the vicinity of a large Tyranid hive fleet. It is a place of so much chaos that even the demons of chaos avoid it. Okay? So, if you want to picture the warp as like having a conversation, okay? You could have a person of, regular psychic abilities, and you can have a conversation with them. If one of those people is a psyker, it's like having 10, 20, 50, maybe 100 people talking to you at once. Okay? Which is to say that it would be absolutely overwhelming for you. Now, if you were another psyker, you could also have 10, 50, 100 people yelling back at them. So you can go back and forth. And would that be unpleasant for them? Yes. Would it be incomprehensible for anybody else? Also yes. Would it be devastating for either side? Probably not, though, because they got enough people to yell back and forth. The shadow of the warp is essentially that you could have like this demon, okay? And this demon is made of psychic energy, and it has the power of like 100 screaming voices. The shadow in the warp is if an entire planet was to yell at you at once. Just like an entire planet's conversation completely drowning your entire existence out and making you absolutely infinitesimally irrelevant. Every single demon of the warp flees when the Tyranids roll through in real space. Because they just have that much influence. Okay then, so that's Psykers of the different areas, and again, most of these you're never going to have to deal with. I am not necessarily precluding Tau Psykers, but I'm not inclined to allow them. We'll have to wait and see. Like, player characters are special. Having a Tau Psyker could be special. We'll have to wait and see. So, we get into psychic disciplines then. And this is where we're going to have to start setting things up. So, psychic disciplines. Although the powers of Psykers are many and varied, they usually fall into one of several disciplines. The 5 most common psychic disciplines are biomancy, divination, pyromancy, telekinesis, and telepathy. Each discipline has a particular character, which is reflected by the powers within it. The telepathy discipline, for example, is grounded in mind control, and its powers act through compelling and influencing the thoughts and actions of others. It should be noted that whilst 2 different Psykers may both use the same discipline, their powers are likely to manifest in unique, idiosyncratic ways. So for example, an Imperial Psyker using the Pyromancy discipline may hurl blazing bolts of fire shaped like an avenging 2-headed eagle, whilst a corrupt Chaos Sorcerer might conjure a multi-hued conflagrations of living warp fire. And an Orc Psyker, or Weird Boy, could vomit cones of billowing green flames. Green flames! You either get it or you don't. Let's see. Many of the other alien species, even different Imperial faction Psykers, such as the Astra Militarium, Weird Vein Psykers, and Primaris Psykers, or Space Marine Librarians, also have access to their own unique psychic disciplines and powers beyond what is listed here. Some Psykers specialize in only one discipline, honing a few powers to the exclusion of all others. Others manifest in much broader range of psychic disciplines and abilities. In such cases, these Psykers will be able to generate powers from several psychic disciplines. So this is going to be the challenge, because we have a list, okay? We have a list. But this list is not comprehensive. And so I'm not sure how we're going to deal with this. Now, Pathfinder and Starfinder both have their own magic systems. And if we were going to look at these, some of these I actually know. So, Smite. Lethal bolts of bio-lightning leap from the Psykers' fingertips, tearing their foes apart. Okay, we have that, okay? We do. We have that. This is Starjammer. I don't want this. I want this. We're going to go to Pathfinder here. I'm going to go to Wizard and Spell List. We have Lightning Bolt. Okay, and Lightning Bolt is, this is level 3, I think? Level 4? Might be level 4, actually. No, it's 3rd level. Okay, so Lightning Bolt. You release a powerful stroke of electrical energy that deals 1d6 points of electrical damage per caster level. To each creature within its area, the bolt begins at your fingertips. It sets fire to combustibles, damage objects in its path. It can melt metals with low melting points, such as lead, gold, copper, silver, and bronze. Yes, if I hit you with Lightning Bolt, screw your gold. If the damage is caused to an interposing barrier, shatters and breaks through, the bolt may continue beyond the barrier the spell's range permits. Otherwise, it stops at the barrier, just as any other spell effect does. So we have Lightning Bolt is a level 3 wizard spell. Iron Arm. By transmuting flesh into living metal, the biomancer can wade through enemy fire unscathed and pulp skulls with their bare fists. This is transmutation. And so I am not as familiar with transmutation because I've never played a transmuter before. Played a lot of wizards. I've just never been a big transmutation person. Although, if we ever do a Full Metal Alchemist module, it will basically be all transmutation. But that's for a different time. Burrow, cauterized weapon. I'm gonna go up, actually. JP says in a LARPing video, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt. You have too many lightning bolts there. You forgot to throw in some magic missiles. Okay? You gotta throw in some magic missiles there. You only get so many lightning bolts per day. Alright, transmutation. So, under transmutation, we have chameleon scales. We have jolt. Deals 1d3 electrical damage as a ranged touch attack. That's even better because now the Psyker can just go like jolt. Then there you go. Mage Hand is telekinesis. Actually, I love Mage Hand. I didn't realize that was transmutation. How is that transmutation? I don't know. Okay. None of those are terribly helpful. Let's go to level 1. Alchemical Tinkering, Alter Winds, Animate Rope, Ant Hall, Blood Money, Body Capacitance, Bouncy Body, Break, Brightest Night, Burning Disarm, Chastise, Coin Shot, Crafter's Curse, Crafter's Fortune, Damp Powder, Dancing Lights, and Blazing Crest, Endothermic Touch, Enlarge Person, Enlarge Tail, Erase, Expeditious Excavation, Expeditious Retreat, Fabricate Bullets, Fabricate Disguise, Face of the Devourer, False Face, Feather Fall, Ferment, Forced Quiet. I don't see anything in here for, like, changing your body. Do I not want this? Do I want Abjuration instead? Maybe I want Abjuration instead. Abjuration is defensive magic. Okay, Abjuration. Endure Elements, Hold Portal, Invisibility Alarm, Peace Bond, Punishing Armor. Well, here's something. Punishing Armor. Coat yourself in a thin layer of energy that turns back non-lethal damage on your attacker. Shield is just a shield. It's that. I believe Mage Armor also comes... No, Mage Armor would be an enchantment, not Abjuration. Shock Shield, Wave Shield. So, nothing there. Level 2? Okay, level 2 Abjurations. Bullet Shield, Bullet War, Death from Below. Miserable, Pity, Obscure Object, Protection Spells, Resist Energy. You know, I wonder if I can just... Metal. Detect Metal. Detect Radiation. Burning, Disarm. Fabricate Bullets. Mirror Polish. Molten Orb. Heart of Metal. Enable weapons to overcome damage resistance. Nope, not that one. JP says, isn't adulation also a thing in Warhammer? Maybe. There's much adulation for the Emperor. Let's see. Medusa's Bane. No. Conjure Deadfall. No. Warp Metal. Cause metal to bend and warp, permanently destroying its straightness, form, and strength. I don't think that's really going to work. Unless you can metal bend armor around yourself like Toph. Which, I mean, maybe. Major Creation, no. Detect Metal, no, there's nothing there. Okay, so I don't think we have a direct parallel to that one. No, I guess not. Enfeeble. Actually, there is a spell literally called Enfeeble. There is. Ray of Enfeeblement. Causes a 1d6 strength penalty plus 1 for every 2 levels. So we have that. This one, it saps the vitality from their body. So it sounds like this one does the same thing. It's constitution instead of strength. Endurance. Reaching into metabolic essence of their allies, the Biomancer knits together bones, heals flesh, and banishes fatigue. That is essentially restoration. Life Leech. With a twist of their gnarled hands, a wrathful Psyker rips the life force from their enemy, hoarding the stolen essence and using it to reinvigorate and restore their own injured flesh. That is just straight up necromancy. There's lots of necromancy spells that can do that. Warp Speed. The powers of the Immature flow into the Psyker, heightening their speed to supernatural levels. A Blur is the Psyker amongst their enemies, felling the unrighteous with blows too swift to see. Haste. It's just haste. And Hemorrhage. Focusing their mutant mind, the Psyker reaches forward and sets a fire within their victim's flesh. Within moments, the unfortunate foe's blood begins to boil within its own veins, tearing them asunder as it bursts from every pore. There's actually 2 spells there that do that, I believe. Blood, no. Blood, no. Blood in the water, no. Ah, here we go. Blood Bath. Cause yourself and your enemies to bleed. I don't know if you want to do that to both of you, but it's something you can do. Touch of Bloodletting. The spell causes existing wounds on the target to bleed profusely. Adhesive Blood, no. Blood Armor. Ah, here we go. Blood Blaze and Boiling Blood. So, Blood Blaze, aura that makes injured creatures spray burning blood, and Boiling Blood. The target takes fire damage, unless you're an orc, in which case you get +2 strength. So, we already have spells for that. And we could even use those as a basis for how to do things, maybe. I'm not even sure yet. We're still seeing what options we have available. Then there's Divination. Prescience. So the Psyker can effortlessly predict the paths of bullets and swords alike by focusing their witch sight even more closely. They can guide their allies' aim, bringing a swift and merciless death to their foes. This is essentially True Strike. Or it gives you literal prescience, which is a spell. Foreboding. Thanks to their warp-gifted sights, the Psyker and their allies are aware of their foes about to charge, even before the foes themselves have realized it, allowing them to prepare a staunch defense. We have spells for that. Things like, Night Watch and stuff like that, or Alarm. Misfortune. With a click of their fingers, they twist fate so their followers' melee blows and ranged weapon shots punch through the weakest points of their opponent's armor. We've got that too. Again, things like True Strike. Perfect Timing. As soon as their conscience pierces the veil of the warp, a rush of images floods the diviner's mind, foretelling the actions of their enemies, down to the merest microsecond. Armed with this information, the diviner's allies can predict exactly when their foes will peer out from behind cover and expose themselves to a lethal headshot. Don't really have a spell for that, but that again falls under things like True Strike. Precognition, we've already seen basically everything before. Scryer's Gaze. They can see the whole battlefield clearly in their mind's eye, with the vantage point of a hunting hawk and the precision of a laser. The to and fro of armies and war machines is but the scurrying of ants beneath their omniscient gaze. Thus, they can direct exactly where and when they and their allies are most needed to turn the tide. So, this is just basic divination. Pyromancy, Flame Breath, we have it. Fiery Form, we have it. Fire Shield, we have it. Spontaneous Combustion, I'm pretty sure that we have it. Sunburst, we have it. And Molten Beam. I don't know if we have a Molten Beam, but we definitely have we definitely have the ability to do like big hot beams. we can do that. Telekinesis, assail. They tear a boulder or rock from the ground and hurl at a foe. We can do that already. Crush, we can do. Gate of Infinity. They punch a corridor through the roiling immaterium, allowing them to cross great distance in the blink of an eye. It's teleportation. We've got it. Objuration Mechanicum. Weapons jam, engines seize up as the Telekine uses their powers to wrench and twist the inner workings of the hearts of nearby machines. We actually have spells for that. Spells that will just jam or break an object. Shockwave, we have it. Telekine Dome. Bullets bounce off thin air and deflect alarmingly towards enemy foes as the Psyker erects a barrier shimmering psychic energy about themselves. We actually have that too. And a Vortex of Doom. They open up a portal to the warp, unleashing raw psychic energies that utterly consume foes. Don't have that one. And Telepathy. They breathe in deeply the power of the warp before emitting a banshee howl. Right there. Will of the Banshee. It is one of the most famous tabletop spells. Famous because no one really survives it. It's one of those things that it's like, huh, who wants to go fight a creature? Alright, let's go fight a creature. Who wants to fight a banshee? Nope. Nope, we're not fighting banshees. Who wants to go fight another dragon? Yeah, dragons are fun. No banshees. Let's see. When you cast a spell, you emit a terrible soul-chilling scream that possibly kills creatures that hear it, except for yourself. The spell affects up to one creature per caster level, which is like 18. Inflicting 10 points of damage per caster level, which is 180. And creatures closest to the point of origin are affected first. So essentially, you get a fortitude save, and if you fail that, you pretty much just die. So, Wail the Banshee. Yeah, we got that. Dominate. We have Domination. It's a classic spell. Mental Fortitude. It's basically the anti-domination. We have that one too. Puppet Master. We have Quest in Gios. So, yes, we have that too. Terrify, we have that as a spell. Invisibility, we have that as a spell, although this one works differently. This is more like mind hacking people, like Ghost in the Shell. It doesn't actually make you invisible, it just makes you invisible to other people. And Hallucination is literally a spell. So we have direct comparisons for pretty much every single one of these. But again, the problem is that this list is not comprehensive. So we'll need to be able to do other things too. And then there's Psyker grades. So we've already discussed this briefly. And we're not going to go into too much here. So Omega minus is a -7. These are actually the anti-psychers referred to as blanks. Or nulls. So Omega is -7, and if I look at the sheet, we have Omegas down here. So that's your Psis and Omegas. So Psi, it says the grade of the grade of the assignment, which actually includes Psi through Sigma inclusive. Represents individuals who are oblivious to the fluctuations of the warp and are immune to psychic probing by a telepath. So this says Psi through Sigma. But when we were looking at it earlier, it looked like Psi and Omega were the same. So we may need to adjust this actually. So this says Psi through Sigma. So Sigma, Tau, Upsilon, Phi, Chi, Psi. Okay, so this one should actually be orange then. I'll have to change my my percentages over here then. I'll recalculate that later. Let's check the rest of them. Row. An individual at row grade is incapable of manifesting any psychic abilities, but can be fully affected by them or other manifestations of warp energy. This is a grade that encompasses the vast majority of humans in the Imperium and serves as the baseline grade of the assignment. Alright, so that would be row. That's this one. And I think that this is our highest grade. Well, kinda. Close, I guess. Oh, I guess Blizz is out of here. See you later, Blizz. Have a good day. And PC Unicorn's in the chat, so a -7 would be Fry from Futurama. I don't think so. He has an extra brainwave, I think. Now I'm not even sure. Thought he had an extra one. Alright, anyway. Row. So individuals capable of being, or incapable of manifesting powers, but they can be fully affected by them. Whereas these, this great assignment, these are deemed blunt or resistant to psychic effects. So they're not nulls, they're not immune, but with every level, they are less affected by things. So if you were to try and, like, psychically control them, they can resist it. Actually, I don't even have to try and resist it, they just do. Alright, next we've got Pi. The second of the two so-called inert psychic levels. Which, do we have Pi and Row together? We do. They possess a minimal degree of psychic power that allows them to be sensitive to fluctuations of the material. Manifestations of this ability are so insignificant that if they happen to be noticed, they are quickly denounced as good luck or a pretension to a sixth sense on the part of the individual. They are unlikely to be capable of being possessed by warp entities. So then we get into Omicron. This is actually Omicron through Kappa. So Omicron, Z, Nu, Mu, Lambda, Kappa. Okay, so Kappa should be green too then. Alright, so we're shifting things a little bit. Alright, so at this grade of the sign, which includes the grades Omicron through Kappa inclusive, the individual displays an unconscious and minor level of psychic brain activity. These abilities produce no truly noticeable effects on the individual or their surroundings, and most Psykers of this grade are unaware of their status unless put to a full examination by an expert skilled in discerning psychic ability. Usually another Psyker. Although Psykers of these grades are still legally under the jurisdiction of the Inquisition and the Adeptus Astra Telepathica, it is logistically impossible to examine every individual who might meet this grade of the assignment across the galaxy. As the danger such individuals represent to humanity is minimal, Psykers of this grade generally never even learn that they possess any abilities at all. And that includes everyone up through Kappa. So, I mean, that's a pretty significant chunk. Alright, now we get to Iota. At grades Iota through Eta inclusive. Yep, and we've got that. The Psyker begins to display various extrasensory powers and is fully aware of their abilities and how they can affect their environment using the warp energy. Psykers of these grades, however, are only able to control their abilities with some effort. All Psykers of the Iota grade and higher are considered true Psykers by the Adeptus Astra Telepathica, and upon discovery are immediately turned over by their world's planetary government as part of its ties to the Inquisition and the League of Black Ships for transport to Terra. So this is where you're in trouble. If you roll Iota or higher, if you're not sanctioned, you're going to get caught. So next is Zeta and Epsilon. These are powerful Psykers who can manifest things, and we do have Zeta and Epsilon together. They can manifest their abilities without significant effort and would represent a great danger to humanity were they to be possessed by a warp entity. However, should they possess the mental fortitude to undergo proper and rigorous training, they can become sanctioned Psykers, Primaris Psykers, or even Space Marine Librarians, and thus provide good service to the Imperium. So, this is the first part where you're actually going to see Psykers doing stuff. If you are Eta, Theta, or Iota, you're pretty much just food for the throne. Okay? That's why they're putting on the black ships. You are going straight to the throne, you are getting put into a pod, you're getting vaporized for your psychic energy, and the Emperor is drinking your soul. However, Zeta and Epsilon, this is where they say, you know what? You could be a good battery, but we could actually use you for something else. PC Unicorn says, is that when they send Bester after you? Yes! That is when Bester is coming after you, and the rest of the Psy Corps. Thank you for the Babylon 5 reference. You just made my day. By the way, if no one else has seen Babylon 5, do that now. Like, I don't mean to toot my own horn because I am amazing and fantastic and great, but like, stop watching this stream and go watch Babylon 5. Because it's better than me. And I'm pretty great, so you know it's going to be awesome. Okay, Delta. And this includes Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and Delta together. And we have those. So, Psykers of grades Delta through Alpha are extraordinarily powerful individuals, and such abilities manifest in one out of only every 1 billion human births in the Immaterium. Such Psykers represent a primary threat to humanity if they ever go rogue or become possessed. But if they possess the willpower and receive the training needed to control their abilities, they can become psychically gifted Inquisitors, Primaris Psykers, or the greatest of Space Marine Librarians. However, they have another... They have this. And we don't, so... I don't even know. Alpha Plus. So the Alpha Plus grade Psykers represent the first of the Plus scale Psykers and are generally synonymous with that extraordinary level of psychic ability. They almost always display some level of neuroticism or even outright insanity as a result of their constant connection to the warp. Should an Alpha Plus Psyker go rogue or become possessed, they represent a threat that can destroy entire worlds or even star systems. Just to reiterate, we have to understand that what makes Psykers, and I know I've discussed this before, what makes Psykers dangerous is that Psykers are unbound from the rules of the universe. The Immaterium doesn't have structure to it. It is chaos incarnate. And it is chaos in all 4 dimensions. So, like, you can travel from point A to point B in real space, and you will get from point A to point B. However, if you try to travel from point A to point B through the warp, there is no guarantee that you ever even get to B, because everything is variable. Length is variable. You could travel for the appropriate amount of time and end up closer or further away from your target. Width, or just, your left and right, are variable. You could travel the appropriate distance and you could end up either left or right, and since we're on the subject, up or down from where you wanted to come out. The Immaterium is chaotic in the 4th dimension too. You could take a 3-day trip from point A to B in real space. you could travel for 3 days in the Immaterium and come out 3 months after you left, or you could come out a day before you left. These things are all variable inside of the Immaterium, and as such, the laws of physics do not apply. The laws of thermodynamics do not apply. Nothing applies. Not to a Psyker. So, whereas a small Psyker can do something like light a fire with their mind, they can just look at something and whoosh, it's on fire now. Your Alpha Plus Psykers, when it says that they can destroy entire worlds, they're not kidding. Because an Alpha Plus Psyker literally does not care about size, or about energy, or about gravity, or anything like that. Your standard Psyker can look at an apple and, like, channel energy into it and the apple explodes. An Alpha Plus can do that to a star. And there's nothing that can stop it. Beta Plus is considered the greatest level of psychic power that a normal human can achieve and still retain any semblance of sanity, although such mental stability is usually rare and almost always rapidly degrades once this level of power fully manifests. Such individuals are almost always targeted for liquidation by Inquisition once identified. Like, you're too powerful, you have to go. The problem is, how do you stop it? Like, if a Beta Plus was to ever realize their power, they can be targeted for liquidation, but how are you going to do it? Are you going to shoot them? They can literally just erase the segment of time where you even existed there. They can erase your entire history. They can make it so you never existed. Again, they're not bound by time. Gamma Plus represents the greatest level of psychic power ever recorded being displayed by a normal human. It is more widely achievable by some unspecified xenospecies and greater demons of chaos. However, even those entities are not known to exceed this rate of power. Then, there is Delta Plus to Epsilon Plus. These are only theoretical levels of power that exist within the scale but have never actually been measured. And then Zeta Plus. It is another grade that is purely theoretical. It is considered by the Adeptus Astra Telepathica to be the highest power that organic neural tissue of any species could actually express without disintegrating. And then Eta Plus through Omega Plus. At these only theoretical grades of psychic power, the Adeptus Astra Telepathica believes that advanced psychic technologies or only psychically resonant structures or constructs would be needed to assist an organic brain in channeling such flow of the warp energy, and even to maintain their survival. Such power could alter reality on a galactic scale. So, I don't think that we need to bother with any of the pluses. The fact is that even at Alpha Plus, even at Alpha Plus here, it says that they almost always display some level of neuroticism or outright insanity. Since I can't necessarily force neuroticism on a player, I would have to go with insanity. Which is a spell, actually. And so, this is what insanity does. So, the affected creature suffers from a continuous confusion effect as per the spell. So, let's look at confusion. Here's what confusion does. Now, since I can't really confuse an actual player, there's actual rules in here for how a character who is confused acts. And it's essentially this. Every single time you go to do anything, you must roll a D100. If it's a 1 through 25, you can do whatever you want. Okay, whatever you were doing. At 26 through 50, they do nothing but babble incoherently. So this is like the best. So already, we're sitting at a coin toss where either you get to do something or you just do nothing. But then it gets worse. At 51 through 75, they deal 1d8 points of damage plus the strength modifier to themselves with whatever they happen to have in their hands. And at 76 through 100, they attack the nearest creature. And for this purposes, familiars also count as part of the subject's self. So you won't attack your own familiar, but anyone else who's nearby is an equal target. So let's see, a confused character who can't carry out the implicated or indicated actions does nothing but babble incoherently. Attackers are not at any special advantage when attacking a confused character. Any confused character who is attacked automatically attacks its attackers on its next turn, as long as it is still confused when the turn comes. So essentially, if you were to become an Alpha Plus, you would be affected by confusion, and everything that you did would be subject to... They have a D100, you essentially roll a 1d4. I don't think that anybody would even want to be an Alpha Plus character. I mean, I could be wrong about that. Maybe there's somebody out there who wants to actually have that kind of power and just say, I want to see how far I can go. But okay, we need to start scaling things. Okay, we need to start scaling things. And the first thing that we're going to do is, I don't need this anymore, and I don't need this anymore, because we're not talking about weapons here. What we are going to need is have some kind of force applier. The first thing that I think I want to do is I want to put in here sensitivity / resistance. There we go. Sensitivity / resistance. And the reason for that is because these are all numbered. And if we come all the way down to omega minus, it's a -7. So we can go -7, and then we just go up. Or actually, let's go down. Down is easier. So alpha is 16. So 16, 15, 14. There we go. And then 4, 3, 2, 1. Perfect. It's exactly what I wanted. These, I do believe, are going to have to be some kind of multiplier if we want to use these. And this is why it's going to matter exactly what grade you are. Because if we were to try, and I think this is going to work out actually, if you were to try and oh, actually, hold on a second. No, I have a better idea. I have a better idea. What if these were your dice that you use? So, like, for example, when we went back to the Eldar, we look at the Eldar war gear. When we're looking at the force weapons, the way the force weapons worked is this determined the number of dice that you got to roll. So, which was our force weapon? It was the Mirror Sword? No. Power Blaze? No, not Power Blade. because that runs off of a battery. I want the, I think it's called a Witchblade? Yeah, Witchblade. Here we go. So the way the Witchblade works is that it does damage, okay? It was a slashing weapon. It's just a sword. However, it gains charges after being while it's carried by a Psyker. And while it does that, it's a capacitor. It can build up psychic power within it. And then you can choose to discharge all of that. Which is why, if you were like an alpha Psyker, you could just discharge all that power. Now here's the problem. When I originally made this, I had done so with the idea that, you know, if you're a Mega, you can't really use this. But the problem is that nobody from here down should be able to. So what I think we're going to do is I'm going to copy these numbers. Copy. Okay, that's not what I wanted. Undo that. Alright, one at a time then. Copy. Paste. Copy. And paste. Alright. So that just really cut down the amount of damage that an Alpha class Psyker could do with this weapon. But let's face it, if you're an Alpha class Psyker, yeah, come on. Do you really care about your sword? You're a walking weapon. It also means that nobody from row on down is going to be even able to use this thing. Like a Pi class Psyker would be able to get a little bit of damage out of it. Like, if we look back at the Witchblade, if you were a Pi, which is the lowest class of person who could even be considered a Psyker, that means that this thing is going to do 3d8 damage, and every 16 turns, which, you know, if we break that down to minutes, 16 turns is going to be about a minute and a half. You can do an extra 1d4 damage. That will kick your 3 times 8 is 24. It kicks your 24 cap up to a 28 cap. So remember how they said that, you know, these people are only barely psychic, and anything that you do observe could be discounted as just luck. That's essentially what it would be. That additional 1d4 is just luck. I think that's going to work out well. So what I'm thinking here is that it's going to give dice and maybe that's how we do this here. Because that means that if you are one of these, if you're a row or lesser, if we determine this is how many dice you're allowed to throw when you use an ability. If you're a row, that would be 0. Let's say you're using a fire blast, okay? You're using a fire blast, and this fire blast deals X number of d6s of fire damage. Well, if you're a row, you get to roll 0 times, or 0 d6s. Okay, well, if you're a row, you can't use psychic powers. If you're a Pi, technically speaking, you could maybe roll 1. Would it be much? It would not, but maybe. There's also, like, no chance of them being taken over, but we may have to work on that. We'll have to work on that. This is going to be a working theory. This is going to be a very complicated module, okay? Because we're going to develop an entirely new magic system on our own. And I'm going to need something that's going to scale, something that's got flexibility to it. I don't know. There's a lot to this. But for now, I'm just going to make a note here, and I'm going to say that sensitivity equals number of dice. Now, of all the abilities that we were looking at on there, Psyker grades. So we do have some things that are direct. Now, we have the pyromancy discipline here, and this is all fire, obviously. But like when we went up here to the biomancy, smite is lightning related. And I'm wondering if perhaps we should just take from the Pathfinder, Starfinder, and just start like developing what we want these things to do. And I actually think that perhaps okay, I'm gonna change this because this is gonna represent a lot of things. So the sensitivity is going to equal the number of dice, number of targets, because that's going to be important later on, and I'm going to say resistance to psychic power. Because here's something that's going to be weird. This is really going to be weird. So when I say resistance to psychic power, you have to understand that, like, let's take an example. Let's get an example here. So enfeeble, okay? So if you try to enfeeble somebody, you're going to try and sap their constitution out of them. I need a drink real quick because this is going to get wordy and complicated, and I'm still not sure how I'm going to do this. Okay. I'm trying to wrap my head around this. If you wanted to enfeeble somebody, something we have to keep in mind is that omegas are immune. Okay? Omegas are immune. As such, you cannot affect an omega with it. So how do we make a dice roll that is guaranteed to fail if you try to do this to an omega? My first thought, of course, is that, okay, if the resistance is a -7, well, what about a D8? Like, if you rolled a D8, then it would be a -7. And so, even if you rolled an 8, the highest you could roll against them would be a 1. That is, like, super complicated and weird, though, because we use D20s for every other save. So how else do we manage this? If I was to do a D20, a natural 20, which still has to fail, means that it would be a natural DC of 13 that you would have to exceed, which means that it would be impossible to hit an omega. It would be just barely possible on a critical roll to affect a psi, and it gets easier as you go up. To the point where, once you get to Row, you just have to roll a 13 or higher. But then we get into the sensitivity part of it, and how do we affect that? Because if we give that, like, bonuses to affect things. So you're a Psyker trying to cast Enfeeble on an Omega. No, it's not going to work. I might need to have an entirely separate chart here. So, I wonder. Technically speaking, they don't all have to have some kind of resistance to it. They just have to have a well, come on. All right, think. I'm approaching this from the wrong direction. I need to approach this from a neutral direction, not the Omega direction. So, Row. Row doesn't get any benefits at all, okay? Row gets no benefits. Nothing. Nothing at all. And I'm going to make this sensitivity, and this one is going to be resistance. Okay, and Row gets 0. They get nothing. Now, on a D20, this anything targeting an Omega has to automatically fail. And I want to make it so that even if you roll for it, it automatically fails. That means that... What if we did this? One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, let's take a look at that. Oh, I literally just copied the thing over. Resistance is 16. That means that the higher you are, the better this works. And you know what? I need to refresh my memory on something. Okay, come with me. I need to refresh my memory. We need to go to magic, because I need to look into spell resistance. It's not something that comes into play very often, but I need to research it. See, when most people are playing a game like Pathfinder, Dungeons & Dragons, Starfinder, whatever it happens to be, most of the time when magic is being thrown around, it falls into one of kind of two categories. And that is... concentration, capture level, spell failure, spell result... concentration check DCs, counter spells, caster levels, spell resistance. There we go. That's what I wanted. Okay. Most of the spells that you encounter when you're playing the game fall into one of two categories. Either they are just straight up offensive spells. Magic missiles, acid darts, lightning bolts, fireballs, whatever it happens to be, where there is no real resistance applied, and any checks that you get will either be fortitude, reflex, whatever it happens to be. Or it's utility magic that is not being cast on other people. I suppose there's a third category, and that is beneficial magic that you are casting on your teammates or yourself, which technically you can resist being healed. I've just never seen anybody actually roll to resist being healed. So spell resistance only usually comes up if you're playing an enchantment class, or an enchanter, a transmuter, a necromancer. And those are pretty rare, because even then, most necromancers just want to raise dead things. They don't want to be, you know, a leech, where they have to run up and grab somebody and suck the life out of them, which is totally a play style. It's just most people don't do it. Okay, so spell resistance is the extraordinary ability to avoid being affected by spells. Some spells also grant resistance. To affect a creature with spell resistance, you must make a caster level check, that's 1d20 plus your caster level, at least the creature's spell resistance. The defender's spell resistance is like an armor class against magical attacks. If the caster fails the check, the spell does not affect the creature. The possessor does not have to do anything special to use spell resistance. The creature need not even be aware of the threat for its spell resistance to operate. Okay. Here's what I think is going to happen. What we're going to do is this is going to be sensitivity / level. So because of this, if we treat this like spell resistance, that means that if you are an alpha psyker, you could have essentially a spell resistance of 16. That means that anybody who wants to affect you will have to roll a 1d20 plus their psyker level to affect you. Now, since you have a 16 there, that means that if this little Omicron guy down here, okay, if he wants to do that, he's going to have to roll 1d20 plus, 2, because that's his level, to affect your resistance of 16. And while that's possible, it's not great. He'll have to roll a 14 or better, which means that he's only got about a 30% chance of doing so. That also means, however, these guys need to resist. Now, a natural 20 plus 16 would be 36. But I don't think that I really need to do that. I wonder if I were to treat it like crits. I wonder if I treat it like crits. Okay, what if we do this? I am going to do this, and I didn't want to do it at first, but I'm going to say this is going to be immune. Okay, they are immune to psychic powers. And what if instead we do this? And you can only be affected on a 20. $18, 18, 17. What if we do this? So, I mean, in terms of like difficulty ratings, the 20 would be considered pretty much, or it would be bad. Okay, it would just be bad. That means that nobody up until roughly the Eta here is really going to have a shot at affecting somebody with a psi. Because even then, that's a coin toss. That's a d20 plus 10. So that's your 50-50 shot, and you get better odds going up from there. However, the odds of you coming across people like that, pretty slim. Yeah, I think this is gonna work. I think this would work. So, it's not gonna be this. I'm gonna put over here that, resistance equals spell resistance. And it's going to be 1d20 plus Psyker, well, not Psyker level because technically that's you. Psychic level versus resistance. I'm still not sure how I feel about this. I'm still not sure how I feel about this. In fact, I think I want to kick this up a little bit more. Actually, I'm not even sure about that. You know what I could do when I think I might feel better about this? I think I might feel better about this. I'm not going to do it like this, because Sigma and Rho having a 15-point jump between them feels wrong. I don't like this. I'm going to do this instead. Instead of jumping 15 points there, because Sigma and Rho are so close, I'm going to count this by threes. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. All right. That means that they are not impossible to influence. However, it's close. It's pretty close. I think I might need to readjust my percentages here, because most people should be in this yellow area, and right now it's only 12.9. This needs to be like 50%, at least. So I will go through and readjust my numbers at a later time. But yeah, I think that'll work out well. The further down you get towards Omega, the higher your resistance, and it goes up pretty damn quick. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to need to establish before we can get into like making actual psychic powers is, how do we determine how many psychic powers you can use? How do we know if it succeeds? And how do we know if it fails? And what happens when it fails? Now, obviously, the number of psychic abilities that you can get per day needs to be tied to your sensitivity. And what I'm considering here is something very simple. What if we were to do something very simple as psychic powers per day equals sensitivity times character level. Okay. If psychic power per day is equal to sensitivity times character level, that means that if you are a Rho, you get nothing. If you are a Pi, you get 1 psychic ability per day at level 1. At level 20, you can get 20 of them. However, at level 20, you are a heroic character, okay? You are an epic level character now. I think that's appropriate. Keep in mind, you still only have a sensitivity of 1, so your epic level character is still throwing a 1d4 spark. It's not much. I mean, by the time you're at that level, you're going to have weapons and armor and gadgets and everything else. Your meager amount of psychic power became irrelevant a long, long time ago. But I mean, let's say that you rolled that magic, the magic dice, the magic 256-sided dice, and you rolled a 1. Well, that would make you an alpha psyker. At level 1, you have 16 of these psychic abilities per day, and at level 1, that spark you're throwing is a bolt that deals 16 d4 damage. So, how are we going to judge how dangerous this is? Because the danger in using psychic powers is that every time you use your psychic powers, there is a chance that you become a conduit for the warp. Now, I actually do have a game that I developed for something else, and I have a system like this. So the concept in the game is very simple. You draw power from the astral plane. And while you have this power inside of you, it empowers your character to a superhuman level. It gives you enhanced strength, speed, durability, everything. You are now the superior life form. However, because the universe must exist in a balance, all energy that goes into or from the astral plane into the material plane then has to go back. And so what happens is you get to throw a number of dice equal to how much power you draw from the astral plane. When you decide to stop being a conduit, however, you now have to roll, and this is using d6s, you have to roll every single one of those dice, and for every 1 that comes up on the dice, you roll again to see how much damage you take, because it burns you from the inside out. This can become an issue because it also has different safety levels. By default, you will only ever take damage if you rolled a 1. However, you can release up to 5 safeties. If you release, say, 3 safeties, now when you get to throw 3 more sets of dice. So if you were at power, say, 3, you can now throw 12 dice. Because 3 times 1, the first level, is 3. 3 times 4, the 4th level, 12 dice. For this game, it's an immense number of dice. However, that means that when you release the conduit to go back to normal, you have to roll all 12 of those dice and you take damage on anything 1 through 4. Which can easily kill your character if you decide to do that. It's a risk versus reward system that works very well. I think that we need to have something similar to that for our Psykers, because choosing to use psychic power, it's a risk. My immediate thought is to use the same system, except to use d20s, and if you rolled a 1, it will kill you. But that may be a little bit too punishing. I mean, everybody rolls a 1 eventually. Oh, and JP said that's sensitivity training I'd actually sign up for. Yeah, I mean, if you could. You have to be born that way. And PC Unicorn says, I am the hero of legend. Rubs feet on the carpet and pokes someone. Take that, fiend! I mean, that is an accurate description of a Pi class Psyker. That's pretty accurate, actually. I'm inclined to use this, but I'm thinking that I need to do so in a series of threats. Also, I have to be careful because I don't want to drag the game down too much. So, how do I want to do this? How do I want to do this? How do I want to do this? Why don't we do something else first? Before I decide this, because I'm working on how the failure condition's got to work, and we already have here that the sensitivity level determines how many dice you get to throw. And what I'm thinking of is having an increase. So, like, we can start off low with your characters being able to throw things like D3s or D4s. I mean, that seems simple. So, like, level 1, level 2, level 3. Oh, wait, hold on. There. So, there will be there's a couple of ways to go about doing this. So I could say D4, and then coming up to level 6, D6, D8, and D10. So that means that as a Psyker, you have all these abilities that you're doing, and as you're leveling up, your powers will grow as you grow. Now, is this a great deal? I don't know. And I kind of feel like it should be broken down further. I could do this in 4-level increments. So 1 through 4, we can make this a D6. And that would be 5 through 8. D8 through 12. D10 through 16. And then D12. And that gives you a little bit more progression. I don't know, I could work with that. That's not the worst thing in the world. So, if you are, and I don't know, just let me roll random dice here. Where's my D20? There it is. I rolled a 162. Okay, that's a bad roll. Can I roll something in the double digits? An 82. Okay, that works. 82 is here. So it'd be a new class, a new category Psyker. So they have a sensitivity level 4, which means that, and I'll just go ahead and roll a D20. 17. So a level 17 new category Psyker would be just getting to throw D12. So that their psychic abilities would be throwing 4 D12s. Or if they had something that like affected telepathy, they could do 4 different targets with their telepathy. And I mean, that seems to work. But what I want to implement here is some kind of risk versus reward. So, for example, we know that they get to throw a number of dice based on their sensitivity. What I want is to essentially punish them for failures, but it cannot be just like an instant punishment. There has to be some kind of save to it. So, what I think I'm going to do is use psychic power, roll sensitivity D, and then wild card for whatever it happens to be. Now, what I'm thinking here is this. So, for every 1 rolled, we need to make some kind of save. Now, what should that save be? Actually, I think it's really simple. I think it should be a will save. Because it is literally an exercise of will. And I think... Oh, hold on. I think this might actually be brilliant. I'm having a moment of brilliance. Okay, for everyone rolled... make a will save versus... Or no, make a will... make a will save DC sensitivity. Let's remember that Psykers grow more dangerous the more powerful they are. Now, I think this is actually going to work. That means that we're going to go ahead and we're going to have our new category Psyker, who is level 17, so they can throw D12s. And I think that this is where it's actually going to work out well. Number one, the more powerful you are as a Psyker, the more likely you are to have to make that will save. If you are an Alpha class Psyker, you're throwing 16 dice. The chances of you getting a 1 are incredibly high. In addition, at level 1, you start with D4s. That means that there is a 25% chance that on any dice you throw, you roll a 1 and have to make a will save. At level 5, that turns into a D6. 25% went down to 16.5%. Okay, it's not a huge drop, but it's pretty significant. At level 9, the odds of you rolling a 1 go down to 12.5. At level 13, they go down to 10, just a flat 10%. And at level 17, that goes down to, divided by 12, I believe it's in 8.76, I think. I'm not positive on that one. Oh, I think this is going to be really good. I think this will be really good. So the higher your sensitivity, the more dice you throw. The lower your level, the better chances of you having to make a will save to maintain. This means that if you are a Pi, you can use your psychic powers pretty freely, and the odds of you ever having a problem are minimum. I mean, number one, your psychic powers are not going to do a whole lot. And you only get one shot per day, because the number of psychic powers per day is equal to your sensitivity times your character level. So, like at level 1, you get one psychic power, and you're done. The odds of you having to make a will save, 25% for the day. And if you do have to make a will save, literally the only way you could possibly fail is on a critical failure. I think this works out beautifully. It's risky, but it's balanced. I think this is fantastic. Now, this is a pretty static system, so we'll need to work out exactly how each individual psychic power, how each spell essentially is going to work out. And I don't know off the top of my head. There we go. I'm just going to put these up here. Okay. I think this is going to work. So if you're a Psyker and you happen to go out in the field, you might have these abilities at your fingertips. But if you're like a really high level Psyker, like you're somewhere in the blue area here, you can throw a lot of dice. Like you can throw, you know, if you're an Eta level, you can throw 10 D4s worth of lightning. And at level 1, 10 D4s of lightning is enough to kill basically anything you're liable to come across, like instantly, which is going to be really awesome because in Warhammer, Psykers are regarded as these larger-than-life figures, very similar to Space Marines. There's a reason why Psykers are regarded as being absolutely terrifying. Part of it is because each one of them is a time bomb, and technically so are you. So at level 1, I mean, you might only have a wisdom of, let's go with an average wisdom, okay? Average wisdom of 2, and let's say that you actually do have a wisdom or will as a class save. That means that you have a +4 for your wisdom, which is really good at level 1. However, the DC is 10. You have 10 dice, and you cannot roll any of them a 5 or less. I'm going to go ahead and roll 10 D20s, and I'm going to do it a few times. I rolled a 1 and 2 2s on that one. I rolled a 1 and a 5 and a 4 on that one. I rolled a 4 on that one, a 2, a 2, and a 3 on that one. Yeah. Every single time I'm rolling for this level 1 Eta level Psyker, I'm failing. And so now we just got to know exactly what's going to happen when you do fail. So for that, I want to go back to the wiki and see if I can't find something in here. Psyker grades. Let's see. Okay. Psyker grade examples. Oh, lovely. We missed this. Okay. So psychic power of the top four grades, represent is immense. Even a Delta level telepath can read the minds of all the people in a good-sized town simultaneously, or crush a man to death against a wall in solar seconds if they are also a telekine. High-grade Psykers are extremely powerful and not to be taken lightly. The Beta Plus grade is the highest level of psychic power that a normal human can attain and still be considered even remotely sane or cognizant of reality. Alpha Plus grade or higher psychic, however, is being of almost grotesque power. They're described as being able to turn a man inside out with a glance, snap a battle titan in half with a flick of their wrist, and a muttered syllable can turn an army upon itself in a frenzy of bloodlust. They are capable of destroying entire worlds, sometimes unintentionally. The great examples. There is some controversy. There are very few Alpha or Alpha Plus Psykers that can be controlled safely or even at all, because more powerful Psykers attract proportionally more interest from warp-bound demons. Many are driven insane, tainted by chaos, or even become possessed. They are one of the biggest threats the Inquisition has to face, and are one of the more grave dangers to mankind that the Ordo Hereticus was formed to combat. Most such Psykers are executed, as the threat they pose is simply too great to deal with, or controlled to any large degree. The Inquisitor Gideon Ravnor was known to be an Alpha Plus Psyker, but was later downgraded to the grade of a powerful Delta or weak Gamma. The Emperor of Mankind would be considered an Alpha Plus, though in fact his power is so great that it probably cannot be measured by any mortal scale. I mean, the Emperor of Mankind is unique. Let's see though. Which site allows them to see the Immaterium? We'll get into that later. Anti-psychic weaponry. I want to see what consequences are though. That's what I want to find out. I want to see consequences. But this really doesn't say anything about that. So, don't care about the anti-psychic weaponry. I mean, it does say that they can become possessed. They can be driven insane, tainted by chaos. So, I guess we have to go with that. I mean, every time they fail, we may have to do something where you can have like a secondary will save. So, like for example, if we come back and we look at where was that insanity spell? Okay, confusion, insanity. So insanity is a 7th level spell. This is pretty high level. So it is a will save to negate it. And I think that we're gonna have to list off some consequence. So you can help me. You can help me with this one. We need a list of consequences. Oh wow, almost out of time. No, I am out of time. We'll make this quick. We'll just throw a few things in here and then we'll get going. So we know that psychic power comes with the risk of possession. We also know they can come with insanity. I do believe there should be some kind of like feedback or overcharge or something like that, so I'm just going to call that burn. I mean, the ability to just destroy yourself entirely. I suppose there should be some kind of death, because it could just straight up kill you. What else could it be? I mean, maybe you could explode? Because it's a lot of power. So maybe you could explode? What else could we do? I don't know. It's a decent start enough. I'll do some more research into it, into what the possible consequences of a Psyker could be. Because I know there's probably a lot more examples out there. But I'll let you work on this one. This is your homework, okay? This is your homework. When we come back here next time, I want you to have suggestions. I want to hear your input on this one. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a break here. Psykers are looking like they're going to be fun. They're going to be dangerous. But they're going to be a lot of fun. And keep in mind that the Psykers, this isn't a class. Okay? This is not something you're going to pick up and just say, I'm going to play a Psyker today. No, 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 no. Every character that is made will roll to determine what their psychic level is. And so most of you will have none. That's just the way it is. Most will have none, and those who do have some psychic power, it'll be hopefully a quickly diminishing scale, because, like they say, there's only like 1 in a billion alpha level Psykers. So I'm going to redo my psychic power chart. I'm going to redo my probabilities. And when we come back next time, we'll have a better idea what we're looking at. I may even try to get AI involved in this and see if I can tweak the numbers. So, that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Thank you everybody for coming out. It was good to see everybody here. I only recall seeing 3 names, but I saw JP. So hello JP, it was good to see you here. I saw Unicorn. It's good to see you here too. It's always a pleasure. Blizz was here, but then Blizz had to leave. So thank you for being here, Blizz, even though you can't see it right now. Can't hear it right now. All right. So if you want to see more of this kind of stuff, because like we're really getting deep into the whole game development thing here when it comes to trying to make a Psyker module for the Warhammer module. If you want to see more stuff like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that way you get notified when these videos come out. If you know somebody else who is also into Warhammer 40k, if they're into Starfinder, Pathfinder, Dungeons & Dragons, tabletop gaming at all, share this video with them. It may give them something new. And, you know, we're always looking for something new, right? Otherwise, though, if you just like me and what I'm doing, leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below. If you're interested in playing with us, make sure you join the Discord, linked below. If the link doesn't work, leave a comment. I will get you a new link. I promise. So, join the Discord, let me know your availability in the Behind the Screens channel, and I will find a group for you to play in. So, if you want to play in the games, do that. Otherwise, though, I will just see you next weekend for whatever I have going. Either the lecture or the tabletop stream. I'll see you at that point. And until then, take care.